Hey humans, it's Hannah. Welcome back to my channel, or if you're new here, I do videos on creepy and disturbing things, and today I am so excited about today's video. Like, I am so genuinely excited to just go through this piece by piece. Today, we are going to talk about Dear David. Now, this is actually kind of an older internet mystery. It's all the way back from 2017, which in internet time is very old, you know, that's when people were like still using Facebook. So I got a couple requests via email for this one. I'm not going to include it in case they don't want to be named, I'm not sure, but I got a couple requests and that prompted me to ask my patrons, and so my lovely patrons actually voted on this in their November poll as a video topic, so here we are. It all started on August 7th, 2017, when a Twitter user named Adam Ellis would post the first of what would be hundreds of tweets in this story that would take the internet by storm. He would document his journey being haunted in his apartment, and he would tell us all about it, including videos, photo proof, and just some very compelling details. Specifically, the object of his terror was a little boy named David with a caved-in head. So today, I'm going to tell you the whole story from beginning to end, along with some analysis and what I think, as always. This video does have a partner though, so we're gonna roll to that ad read and I will be right back with you. A portion of today's video is kindly sponsored by Ritual. Ritual is a multivitamin reimagined. They take the guesswork out of vitamins with 9 high quality nutrients from D3 to omega-3 that even with a healthy diet are hard to get enough of every day. Ritual is vegan friendly, non-GMO, gluten-free, allergen-free, and contains no added sugar. And even with all of that, they're extremely transparent about the way their nutrients are sourced. You can find it right on their website. I take the women's 18 plus multivitamin, but they also offer one for men, for those over 50, prenatals, postnatals, for kids, teens, and now they even have an essential protein range and symbiotic range. I absolutely love Ritual because they're really gentle on the tummy, so I can take them at any time of the day. Plus, there is a mint tab in every single bottle, so your vitamins will always taste and smell very fresh. The women's 18 plus multivitamin is the one that I take every day, and it includes vitamin D and B12 along with other essentials, but it's vitamin D that I really need since I live in Washington State where there's not that much sun. So Ritual just helps me fill in those gaps. Better health does not happen overnight, and right now Ritual is offering you all 20% off of your first month. Fill in the gaps in your diet with Essentials for Women, a small step that helps support a healthy foundation for your body. That's 20% off 1 month's worth of vitamins or protein by going to ritual.com/HannahTheHorrible and using code HannahTheHorrible at checkout. Okay, so this video is gonna be long. I already know that because the story is long. However, I promise you, I'm not gonna just like read the entire story word for word from his tweets to you because you could do that on your own. But please bear with me because to lay the foundation of this story, I think it's really important that we do read the first section of tweets one by one to like get this whole thing started so you understand the background of what's going on. However, I will skip or summarize through parts that are not as important, so you don't need to waste your time reading all of those parts that are just like can be summarized in a few words that you don't need to read the dozens of tweets that go along with them. So we're gonna go through the whole story and here we go. All right. His very first tweet goes, "So my apartment is currently being haunted by the ghost of a dead child and he's trying to kill me. Thread. He started appearing in dreams, but I think he's crossed over into the real world now. The first time I saw him, I was experiencing sleep paralysis and saw a child sitting in a green rocking chair at the foot of my bed. He had a huge misshapen head that was dented in on one side. I did my best to draw it." And here's a picture of the boy from Adam's memory from the dream to the best of his ability. Now, Adam is already an illustrator, so this part does make sense and explains why he can draw this picture so well for us and why he would just be able to put on paper what he saw in the dream, just FYI. Continuing on, "For a while, he just stared at me, but then he got out of the chair and started shambling toward the bed. I couldn't move because I was paralyzed. I have sleep paralysis fairly often. It sucks. Right before he reached my bed, I woke up screaming. I had another dream a few nights later where I was in the library and a girl came up to me and said, 'You've seen Dear David, haven't you?' And I was like, who? And she said, "Dear David, you saw him." She continued, "He's dead. He only appears at midnight, and you can ask him 2 questions if you said 'Dear David' first." She then added, "But never try to ask him a 3rd question or he'll kill you." I was very shaken. Having 2 dreams about the same thing is pretty weird. Anyway, a couple weeks passed without incident. Then David came back in another dream. Same situation, I was in bed and he was sitting in the rocking chair near the window staring at me. In the dream, I say, "Dear David, how did you die?" And he mumbles, "An accident in a store." I say, "Dear David, what happened in the store?" He groans. "A shelf was pushed on my head." I'm frozen with fear. I ask, "Who pushed the shelf?" David doesn't answer. I realize that I've asked a 3rd question, which I'm not supposed to do. At that point, I wake up absolutely terrified. The next couple days, I Googled deaths in the city, but can't find anything about a kid named David dying in a store. I even tried different names. Daniel, Dylan, Devin, nothing. A few weeks go by without incident. Sort of randomly, the apartment above mine is vacated and I have the opportunity to move into it. It's a larger apartment, so I'm thrilled. Another month or 2 goes by and I sort of forget about Dear David. I think he lost track of me because I moved upstairs. But lately, something strange is happening. So I want to cut in here and just say that this is confusing because he keeps referring to it as an apartment, but the way that it's a duplex, so it's not just like a giant apartment building, it's a duplex. It was a house that was made into a duplex. So he draws a picture of it later and we'll go over that. But he was living on the bottom floor, so now he's living on the top floor. So he owns like half of this building. So he lives in quite a big place. And this is in New York, by the way. Okay, going back to it. But lately, something strange is happening. For the past 4 nights, my cats gather at the front door at exactly midnight and just stare at it, almost like something is on the other side. So here's the picture that he includes of his 2 cats doing this. Remember that the girl from the other dream explaining how Adam works said that he also only appears at midnight. Last night I got a weird feeling and looked out the peephole, and I'm dead certain I saw movement on the other side. When I opened the door and turned on the hall light, nothing was there, but my cats seemed unnerved, bushy tails, etc. And that's where I am right now. Dear David found me, I think. I don't know what to do. I'll keep you updated. Update, August 8th, 2017, so the next day. For the 6th night in a row, my cat has walked over to the door promptly at midnight and stared at it. So now he's showing us a picture of his cat doing something similar as the last picture, but this time he is showing an analog clock with it to show that it's midnight. Yes, I know, analog clocks are very easy to just change to whatever time you want, but he does actually post these around midnight. We'll get to that in a minute. But yeah, I know, I'm thinking the same thing you are. Then what is going on? And he shows this video of his cat at the door. He then goes on, okay, so I took a photo through the peephole because I'm too scared to open the door. I feel like I saw something. I couldn't tell, so I mustered the courage to open the door. Nothing was out there, but I took another photo. Look at this. Is it just me, or is there something in the first photo right where the banister meets the shelves, hiding on the stairs? There's 2 photos. Here they are. I wasn't sure if there was a smudge or something, so I took a second photo from inside. There was something out there. I think he's talking about that little part right here because in the second photo it's not there. But I also see people in the comments are editing the picture to see better, and they're pointing out other stuff that's not in that area, but I'm pretty sure he's talking about the circled section right here, like as if something was peeking up at him from the stairs, and then in the second photo it's gone. He goes on, I deadbolted the lock and got in bed because I don't know what else to do. I could still hear my cat meowing at the door. He ends the night with, I am pretty scared, and a pic of the cat still at the door. Now we're gonna kind of move back and forth from me summarizing as well as with the tweets, but I will tell the story in order from this point on still. So it's August 9th, 2017, which is the next night. He just says that it's quiet and he's gonna see if he can sleep. And he says that he is soon going to get some sort of recording device or some sort of sleep recording device in his living room to see what's going on, especially with the cats. The next night, on August 10th, he posts a video of his cat, sure enough, meowing at the door right before midnight. Now, the analog clock was an issue, but you can see the tweet is timestamped at 8:56 p.m., which he's on the East Coast, he's in New York, I'm on the West, so it would make sense that it would be timestamped at 8:56. I believe whoever copied this tweet was probably on the West Coast as well. So sure enough, it was like 4 minutes before midnight his time. He also shows a picture of salt that he made a path of right out inside the door per someone's suggestion in the comments, just to see if he can try anything. Hearing that salt will, you know, keep evil away. August 11th, 2017, the next night, he says that the sleep app on his phone took 33 recordings while he was sleeping. The first one is like a weird snapping sound. It sounds to me like somebody dropping something on a surface, but he says to him it sounds like somebody taking a step. So here's that recording. The second one isn't any particular noise, but just a few seconds of like weird electrical static. Here's that recording. The third one is another snap, the electrical static, and then a very quiet groan that you can hear. But Adam himself admits that that is him like quietly groaning in his sleep, which, you know, is just normal. The next night, August 12th, he posts a photo of himself saying that he's going to leave for the weekend. Now, the comments filled with people that believe him and are scared for him at this point take this photo, zoom in on one of the panes behind him in the door, and find a face. I don't see it personally. It seems like a stretch. I'll put some of the photos that commenters were leaving where they changed the brightness and edited and drew on the photo to show us what it is, specifically in this pane right here. Now, this is like very creepy, but also a lot of people are saying that this is very likely the pareidolia phenomenon. This is the tendency for humans to perceive meaningful patterns in ambiguous patterns or otherwise like meaningless objects. Obviously, like here's a few examples on the screen. A really famous one is the moon. It's especially common for humans to find face patterns in things where it's not really a face, but we're just like inclined to see it. So creepy, but we don't know if it really means anything yet. The next night is the Polaroids. Adam explains that he bought one of those cool vintage Polaroid cameras over the weekend just for fun. He took a few photos of his apartment, and in one of the photos we even get to see the green rocking chair that he was talking about that's in his bedroom from the beginning that David was sitting in his dreams. But then he decided to take a photo of the hallway, as this seems to be the haunted area, the area where the activity is coming from. He explains that to his complete and utter shock, this photo comes out completely black. Panic, he rips open a pack of undeveloped Polaroids to see if it was just a fluke and maybe the picture didn't get developed, but all the undeveloped Polaroids are all white. So he reasons he must have covered the lens with his finger. But this is what it looks like when he tried that on the left and the black photo of the hallway on the right for comparison. So he knew that wasn't it. He tries to reason it away, take it with a grain of salt, saying, I'm not sure this could mean anything. Maybe it's just a fluke. Now, a couple thoughts on this. First of all, of course, this would be extremely easy to fake. You could put a piece of black tape over the lens. You could take a photo of a black piece of construction paper and just like put the camera directly on top of it to get that photo. And then I also just want to point out that I find this with a lot of people claiming paranormal stories, both on TikTok and any other part of the internet. They often mix true stuff in with the lies, with the story. They often say stuff like, oh, take this with a grain of salt. I'm just pointing this out because it could be part of it, but I don't know. Maybe it means nothing. Maybe it's this, you know, trying to come up with all these explanations because that's a very natural human response to things like that. So it's more convincing and it seems more realistic to the audience when the poster is doing that because it's how they would likely react in that situation. And then when they can't find a logical explanation, it convinces the audience even more because then they're like, well, they already ruled out all this other stuff, so maybe it is something really sinister or paranormal. Anyway, but the Polaroids go one step further. He takes further proof for us. So now he's taking videos of him using the camera to show us that he's not messing with them. So he takes one of the apartment, but then he posts a second separate video of him taking a photo out in the hallway. Again, this is actually making me even more skeptical because he could have easily put a piece of black tape or taped something to the lens in between the videos. He would have had to have a continual video with the Polaroid camera in view of our camera point of view the whole time while taking both photos with no cuts for this to be anything convincing at all. So then he takes photos from further away with his iPhone and with the Polaroid to see if the photos from his iPhone do the same thing. The one on the left that he posts is the one with the iPhone, and the one on the right he claims is with the Polaroid. So again, the hallway is pitch black in the Polaroid only. And he also claims in the tweet that the hallway light was on for both photos. But again, of course, just because he claims that doesn't mean it's true. If you look very carefully, and this was not me, a commenter pointed this out, the light switch on the right of the photo right here in the iPhone one is clearly flipped up. But conveniently, the lower resolution blurred Polaroid version, where the hallway is black, you can't really see the light switch at all. It's too blurred out. And you could easily argue that that's because it was flipped down, the hallway lights were off, and he conveniently had this photo was too blurry to tell. Regardless, we're gonna move on as if all this was true. I'm just starting, you know, this is where my brain goes. It's August 14th now, and Adam sages his entire apartment, taking special care to sage around the green rocking chair and the hallway. He figures, what could it hurt? Which I think, again, most of us would be like, yeah, what's the harm? August 15th, though, his tweet starts with, the sage did not work. I haven't dreamed about David in a few months, but he appeared again last night. In the dream, my bedroom was filled with hazy smoke, maybe because he was thinking about the sage, but I could see David sitting in the chair across the room. He was smaller this time, almost shrunken. He didn't do or say anything except look at me. Anyway, it feels like a bad omen. August 17th, 2 days later. It's been 2 weeks and he still does this every night at midnight. Other weird stuff has been happening too. I've been recording myself sleeping and it picks up this weird static electricity sound every night at 3 a.m. that lasts about 5 minutes. This morning I woke up to this whole house shaking. It felt like a small earthquake. I debated even mentioning this on Twitter because it sounds made up, but I distinctly felt the house swaying. It's just a whole bunch of small things happening at once. I feel so uneasy, like right before a thunderstorm comes. Everyone is telling me to move, but I don't have any guarantee that this won't follow me. August 18th, they just issued a thunderstorm warning for tonight. A few days later, update, August 21st, 2017. Adam starts by saying that the thunderstorm didn't really come to fruition. Thankfully, it passed, but things are not better. He said he's been falling asleep early and he has been feeling extremely tired. I had a dream that night where David was dragging me by the arm through an old abandoned warehouse. I'm not sure why I didn't fight back in the dream or how he was strong enough to pull me, but that's dream logic for you. It was a creepy dream, but I didn't think much of it when I woke up. I took a shower and then noticed something. I'd woken up with a huge bruise on my arm. Now look, maybe I injured myself the day before and my arm was hurting during the night, which manifested as a dream. There could be a totally logical explanation for it, so I brushed it off. I went to get coffee, which I do every weekend. When I walk to the coffee place, I always pass a food cart repair depot. It's always incredibly busy, especially on weekends. I've lived in the neighborhood for over 4 years, and the place has always been jam-packed with carts getting serviced. But today, it was completely abandoned. The whole warehouse was totally gutted and empty. Well, almost empty. I went inside to look around because I was astonished that this place was suddenly empty after all these years. Basically, the only thing in the entire warehouse was a single green chair. If you recall, David first appeared in my green rocking chair. It could be nothing, but it's weird that it was the only thing left behind. On my way back from coffee, the warehouse had been shuttered. It's remained shuttered since. The chair, my bruise, dreaming about an empty warehouse and then passing by one, it gave me the creeps. A few days later, he starts the thread off by explaining the cats are still doing their usual routine, but it's been getting earlier and earlier in the evening, now around 10 or 11 instead of midnight. Now he says after the cats have been done crying, he's been getting a weird phone call from an unidentified number. He shows the call log to us and explains that when he finally picked up once, hoping that it was spam and he could tell them to go away. But when he did pick up, all you could hear was electrical static, very similar to the static we heard in the nighttime recordings earlier. He says that he didn't say anything, he just listened on the phone call, and then the static finally stopped, and instead there was just breathing, or what he thought sounded like breathing. Then, just as he was about to hang up, he said he heard a very small voice say, "Hello," not as a question or in a greeting way, just a flat statement, quote unquote, as he describes. He says he was so scared he just watched TV all night and didn't sleep with the curtains drawn and the lights on. Now, a simple explanation for this was that Adam was getting spam calls over and over randomly, and so he decided to make that part of the story, as we could not possibly verify what was actually heard on the other phone. How would he have just recorded the phone call randomly if he didn't know what was going to happen and assumed that it was spam? So, plausible deniability, I'll give him on that one. What he's describing, though, still very creepy. August 28th, 2017, Adam starts by saying that he moved the green chair out of his bedroom. Adam also explains that he's leaving for Japan in a few weeks to go on vacation. And he has this weird feeling that maybe he's kind of like knows he's in denial, but maybe if he leaves for a few weeks, David will also leave, thinking that Adam is gone. He knows that that's probably not going to be the case, but he's just kind of hoping. He says that he got a pet camera so he can check on his cats while he's gone. He's going to have people come and take care of the cats while he's gone, but with the camera, then he can check on them any time of day. He was testing out the camera while he was away from home before he leaves for his trip, as I think most logical people would do, and he finds a video of this on the camera. And then another video when another motion was detected on the camera, and this is what he sees. Watch just above the bookshelf. About a week later, on September 5th, 2017, is where the story continues. This is another video from the cat cam, and this time it's his cat Maxwell jumping over something invisible, as if Maxwell had suddenly gotten spooked. He says he doesn't think it was a bug because he doesn't get a lot of bugs in that place, but what Adam doesn't even mention is that the green glass on the table moves in the video right after his cat does the thing. I'll show you the video again. And then there's another video of his cat doing this. He claims he never gets flies in the apartment, so he doesn't think that's what it is. I personally think it looks exactly like a cat swiping at a fly, but whatever. He says he just can't shake the feeling that something has actually made its way into his apartment. Like it was just in the hallway before, but now it's inside. Now we're going to jump to September 16th, 2017. He explains that he had another dream, this time while taking a nap. This one is very upsetting. He says that in his dream, he rolls over to one side, opens his eyes, and on the pillow next to him is a severed head with its spine still attached, all bloody and like snaking it down the bed. This severed head had a huge smile on its face, was somehow still alive, and was staring menacingly at Adam. Horrified, I screamed, "What happened to you?" The head smiled even bigger. "It feels great," the head groaned. And then, thankfully, Adam wakes up. He couldn't sleep after that dream, of course, so he actually gets out of bed and walks to a nearby bodega to get a snack. He passes by this warehouse, the warehouse that we talked about earlier that used to be very busy and is now just suddenly abandoned. He walks by it to and from to pretty much go anywhere. He said at one point that you have to pass by this warehouse to get to the subway station, so he passed by it multiple times every day. On his way back, he hears a distinct thunk inside the warehouse, and the door of the warehouse has now been closed. He has to know what it was, of course, so he goes up to the warehouse and he takes a picture through the window. The window, he explains, was too high. It's like above his head, so he can't peek through, so instead he just reaches his arm up and takes a photo that way. When he finally got the guts to look at the photo, he was very scared too. He saw this. If you look in the upper right corner, he could have sworn he saw David's face. Someone in the comments edited the photo to make it easier to see. I'll show it to you here. And here's some close-ups that he shows. If you look carefully, you can see the caved-in head here. September 22nd, 2017, he announces that he's leaving for Japan soon. So from now until October 5th, that's where he is. And so we get like a big kind of break in the story. He posts a bit, but it's not too integral to the story, so I'm not really going to explain too much other than the fact that he finds this little statue thing in Japan, which I think is just a big coincidence. The next tweet that we get is on October 14th. To summarize, the backlight on his television had been flickering on its own, even when the TV wasn't on, which it was not supposed to do, and then it finally stopped and now it doesn't work at all, he claims. Then as he's walking by his front door, I believe that leads out to that hallway, he hears a faint scratching on the door. Too scared to put his face that close to the peephole to peer out, instead he again takes a picture with his iPhone. He puts the little lens up to the peephole and takes a picture that way. Here is the photo. Again, like as usual, it's very subtle. You can't see much until you look at the edited versions that people make with the brightness turned up and stuff. So once you do see the edited versions though, you cannot unsee it. This is so creepy. So here's the best photo I found that someone made to show you. It literally looks like a person or an entity with an ear right there staring back through the peephole right at Adam. This is finally when Adam decides he needed some help from someone else, like you think. On October 26, 2017, he apologizes for the absence, but he says that he had a friend come over and do all these cleansing rituals around his apartment to try to like rid him of whatever this spirit or evil entity was. He decided against mediums for now, and he decided against ghost hunters because he didn't want them to sensationalize what was going on, which doesn't make sense to me personally, but okay, like they shouldn't have to sensationalize it, because if what you're saying is true, there's no sensationalization needed. But whatever, moving on. He thought the rituals worked at first. He stopped getting the dreams and his cats were acting normal again. Thank goodness. But then, on his way to work, to his dismay, the warehouse door was open again for some reason when it had been closed for weeks. This time, the only thing inside was a hearse. Here's the photo of it. Then, I believe it's that same night, or it's one of those nights, the actual night is unclear, but it was around 11 p.m. He's watching TV and he goes to the kitchen to get a beer. His cats are looking out the window. He explains that the window looks out onto the roof of the business next door. He looks out his window from the kitchen and sees someone standing out there staring at him. He again frantically gets his phone out to take a picture. This one. And this is the second one. Now, on the first photo, if you look carefully, you'll see this. Again, you have to brighten it up from people editing it, and then this weird thing in the second photo, but the first photo is what interests me. The first one is definitely creepier. November 6, 2017. He says that he has a dream again, almost the same as the first one, except now David is sitting in the recliner in his room rather than that green rocking chair, since he moved the green rocking chair out of his room. In his dream, Adam gets sleep paralysis. I think in the dream though, probably in real life too, but I think specifically in the dream, he couldn't move very much. He sees David sitting in the chair staring at him from the other side of the room. He was almost paralyzed, but he could squirm just a little bit, and he was able to move his hand just enough so that he could grab his phone. He starts taking photos in the dark. He just starts taking photos, hoping that if David is coming to finally kill him or take him or whatever, he can at least get photo evidence of it. David gets out of the chair and, to Adam's horror, starts coming towards him again. David moves slowly towards him as if he's struggling to crawl towards him. His eyes roll into the back of his head and he's murmuring something under his breath at Adam. And it's at this point that thankfully Adam wakes up. Relief washes over him as he realized that it was all a dream. He goes to work and things feel better, but later he's looking for a photo and he notices a bunch of photos that he doesn't remember taking on his phone. Of course, a lot of us saw this coming. It was probably not a dream after all. All those photos he dreamt of taking of Adam, he really took. Here's the photos. And again, here's the photos after people turned up the brightness and whatnot. There's still a lot of people in the comments that are completely believing this and are very scared for Adam, which to me at this point, it definitely reeks of an ARG/unfiction series, but the photos, I will admit, these are very creepy. This is when David really starts to come to life, I guess you could say. It's been more subtle until this point, and now David, there's actual photos of him. On November 17th, he shows us a diagram of his building, as you can see on the screen now. He explains that after the last tweet, he hears a thump right above him coming from the roof, which makes no sense since he's on the top floor. There's no way to get to the roof. There's no ladders, there's no trees around the building, no roof access. But he does say that it occurred to him recently that he remembered there is a weird, mysterious hatch in his hallway. He says he's always known about it, but he just assumed that it opened up directly to the roof. Here's a photo of it, super creepy, ominous crawl space store, and then he shows a video so we can get an idea of just how high up this is. It's over his staircase, so there's no way that anybody can just get to it without something like a very, very tall ladder. But Adam realizes that it does not lead to the roof. Here's the photo to explain that. You can see the skylight attached right outside to the roof up to the sky, and there's about 3 feet of space in between this crawl space and the roof. So now he realizes that there's essentially a crawl space. There's 3 feet of crawl space above his apartment and under the roof. He goes on to explain that over the past week and a half, he's heard noises above him, like thumps, something clinking on the floor, and then rolling about 6 feet, stuff like that. He says it could be a raccoon, again trying to rationalize, but what if it's not? He ends this thread by saying that he's going to buy a pole off of Amazon or a ladder to see if he can go investigate. November 28th is where we come back, as he explains that he was gone for the Thanksgiving holiday for a while, so it also took a while for the pole to come. He says that he woke up in the middle of the night to a loud crash from above him, followed by another one. He claims that it happened about 15 times, a loud crash followed by utter silence, then something like a footstep in the hallway. He was terrified, but kind of frozen, so he just falls back asleep eventually. And the next morning he finds debris on the stairway in the hallway. Here's the photo of that. He looks up at the crawl space door and he sees something. He sees something up there now. And so he takes a video of him with his 16-foot pole as he pokes the ceiling to see if the hatch will open. And sure enough, in the video, something falls out. He goes back to retrieve the item that fell, and it's a small effing leather shoe. It's a little boy's shoe. He claims at this point that he called the landlord, who comes over as soon as he can with a ladder so he can investigate the crawl space, as Adam tells him that he thinks there's a raccoon or something up there. What I think is funny though is that he was like, yeah, landlord, you go up there and check first. I'm pretty sure this house is haunted by a little demon boy, but I'm not going to tell you that. I'm going to let you go up there and see what happens to you first. Yeah. The landlord at first says that he doesn't see anything. He's got a flashlight up there and there's nothing there. But then suddenly the landlord says, oh wait, here. He grabs something from up there, gives it to Adam, and it's this. It's a little green marble, which looks very old. If you recall, some of the noises that he had been hearing was something like clinking onto the ground and then rolling 6 feet. So I think that implies that that was probably the marble, and I think he's implying that David has been camping up there. He picks back up on December 12th. Again, quite a big gap in time. And he says sorry again for the absence, but he's been feeling very, very sleepy lately. He's been having random bouts of dizziness, very tired, and just overall not feeling great. We all know from demon stories that this is not a good sign. If you're having some sort of haunting, it usually means that whatever entity is in your home has either attached itself to you or is trying to attach itself to you or is taking some of your energy. When he says that he feels like David is around, it feels like malice and dread. People have suggested that maybe David is just looking for help and he is just asking Adam for help, but Adam says he doesn't think so, because the way that David has been looking at him in the dreams and the feelings that he's been getting have been anything but friendly or helpless, but more just bad. Evil. On one of these nights, he takes his phone and puts it on the bookshelf and he turns on an app that takes a photo every 60 seconds. He explains that the pet cam couldn't get the whole room, so he opted for this. When he woke up, there was about 350 photos from the night to go through. At first, many of the photos were just him sleeping, but of course, David shows up in the photos. And again, just a warning, fictional or not, this really, really creeped me out. This actually really disturbed me. Here's David just staring at Adam. The next photo, David looks like he's just staring straight at the ceiling. In the next dozen or so photos, Adam says that David looks like this. David is collapsed in the chair and wasn't moving. And then suddenly, he's just gone. A few photos later, he's back, except now he's next to Adam, staring at him sleeping. Then he's on the bed, staring down at Adam sleeping here. Then the next one looks like he's staring at the camera. And the last photo is this. I swear, when I saw this photo, my soul jumped out of my body. What the actual fuck? If you also recall, this one is very similar to the photo through the peephole of David at the peephole, where you can just see his ear and it looks kind of like he's looking in. And you have to wonder what it is that David is doing to the camera, if David is mad that there's a camera on. January 2nd, Adam comes back and explains that for the holidays, he went back home to Montana. And at first, it was great. He felt better. He felt less groggy. He didn't feel sick. Everything lightened. And it was like David was finally gone. It made him hopeful that maybe if he did move, even if he moved back in New York and moved somewhere else, maybe David wouldn't follow him after all. All this time, he hasn't moved in spite of people's suggestions, because he did move at the very beginning. After David showed up, he moved to his upstairs apartment and David just followed him there. So he assumed that moving wouldn't help. But this feeling in Montana, feeling better, made him wonder if perhaps this could actually work if he moved. But then while he was in Montana, a few creepy things started happening again. He started feeling bad again, Felt like someone was watching him through the windows. And then, in spite of no one being around, to his knowledge, he found little tiny footprints in a path in the backyard. This makes him think that while it took him a few days, he believes that David followed him to Montana. This, of course, fills Adam with more dread and despair because now he knows that no matter what he does, David is going to follow him. After getting home, the dreams returned. Adam knew that David was just back and everything was going to go back to the way it was. He tweets, "Last night was particularly bad. I felt sick and had nightmares all night. I dreamed that David was hovering in the corner by the ceiling, far off the ground. He was mouthing something, but I couldn't hear any words. Suddenly he plummeted downward and I felt this huge pressure crash into my chest. I woke up gasping, the wind completely knocked out of me. I sat up and looked around frantically, heaving for air, but there was nothing. When I caught my breath, I retrieved my phone from the dresser. The photo roll showed nothing of note, save for the last photo taken just a moment before. I don't know what to do. I'm at a loss here. I just don't know." And the photo that he shows us from his phone is David, sure enough, hovering above Adam. It is just a special kind of horrifying. January 16th, 2018. Adam says that after that last incident with David in the bed hovering over him, everything stopped. He feels better. David seems to have gone away for the most part. He was sleeping well again. He even says that he's been feeling great. But he says even with all this improvement, something feels just kind of off still. He says he's losing chunks of time, like hours at a time sometimes, and not remembering what he was doing. Or he says that he'll hear somebody say something, and when he asks them to repeat themselves, they'll claim that they didn't say anything. Now, this is the end of the story. It's about to end here, so pay attention. He says that he posted some photos to his Instagram stories. He still has screenshots as some people were messaging them to him. The first two photos were completely normal, as you can see here. But then a third photo was this. Adam has no memory of posting it, and as far as he knows, it was normal on his phone as he was posting it. But you can see another image of someone half over Adam's face. He says he can't explain it yet again, although he has a feeling that he does know what it is. But Adam says at this point, he doesn't care. He just wants everything to go back to normal. So if you haven't caught on by now, the implication is that David has possessed Adam, or at least very much attached himself to Adam. When he was hovering over Adam in the bed in the last incident, and he felt that big, heave where he couldn't breathe, and he felt like David was pushing himself into Adam, David was muttering something, and then after that he suddenly felt better, except for stuff just kind of being off. So that's the implication, is that David has taken over. Adam kind of knows, he kind of suspects that that is what happened. He knows that he wouldn't have just gotten better randomly for no reason, but I think at this point Adam is so tired of being tired and sick and scared that he's kind of like, okay, fine, David, you can have part of my body if you will stop this nonsense. The chilling ending to this story are the rest of these tweets that we think are possibly not Adam posting them. On January 28th, there's a random video of his cat meowing from a very low point of view. If you look carefully at the end when the cat looks towards the camera, you can just make out David's face right next to the cat here. The low point of view may also be implying that David was the one that set up the camera, or just that it definitely wasn't Adam filming it. On February 3rd, he tweets, "Everything is fine," with weird spacing. February 13th, "Please don't worry about me. I'm okay and everything will be like it was before," smiley face. The weird grammar, the weird punctuation, the sentence structure. Adam never used emojis or smiley faces before. On February 14th, there's another cat video from a low, strange point of view. And then the last tweet is on March 12th. "For everyone asking if I'm alive, I'm doing okay. It's been pretty quiet around here lately and I've been trying to focus on work. Of course, I'll keep you updated if anything strange happens, but for now I'm staying busy with drawing and other projects." There's a little thumbs up emoji at the end. And again, he has never used emojis in this entire story. So we can only conclude that not only is David haunting Adam, but David has possessed Adam. Or at least he's taken over his Twitter account. That is the full Dear David story. Now, let's talk about how this is fake as hell, regardless of what Adam claims. Adam continues to tweet from this account eventually, seemingly back to himself. On June 6, 2018, a few months later, he announces that Dear David would be made into a film. This seemed to confirm for a lot of people that the story was made up. I think a lot of us realized that a long time ago, but Adam claims still that this story is true. When he was interviewed by The Wrap, he insisted the story was true. He says that he's just trying to tell his story and that if it was fiction, he would have been updating his Twitter more than once every few weeks, right? Now, here's my little rant about it. If you have watched any of my videos before, you know that I am extremely skeptical and I am definitely one to find all other rational explanations before I believe anything paranormal. I am going to 1000% say that this is an ARG/unfiction series. Him updating every couple weeks means absolutely nothing. ARGs put out content every few weeks all the time. And of course he's going to claim that it's true. It makes the story more compelling and immersive, and good for him. Now, secondly, let me point out that Adam is conveniently a writer and an illustrator, and this all just happens to be something real that's happening to him. Really? This all happened to him? This is in no way a publicity stunt or some way to advertise his writing and illustrating work? I sound super bitter here, but let me assure you I am not. Good for Adam. Adam made an amazing, compelling, very realistic, immersive story. A lot of people that create ARGs or, unfiction series cannot say the same. I wouldn't be talking about this at all if it was a crappy story. And honestly, even though I know that this is just a story, I honest to God hope that Adam sticks to his guns and continues to insist that it's a true story. I want him to not back down. I want him to take this to his grave. But I'm still gonna tell you why it's not real. First of all, obviously, why would you agree to a movie if this was real? I mean, not blaming him for getting a movie deal, that's awesome for him, get the money. But if David was real, if all of this actually happened, you would be shitting your pants, terrified that David would get mad about you making money off of it and getting a movie deal. I mean, if this actually had happened to me, I would be repenting my atheist ass to Jesus. I would be sweating 24/7. I would be hiring priests and everyone else that I could think of. Even if David was going to follow me, I would have moved at least back with a roommate or family, somebody, so I at least wouldn't have to be alone. I mean, think about this for a second. Think if this really, really was happening to you. You woke up and found photos on your phone of a creepy little ghost kid with a caved in head stalking you and creeping on you in your sleep. You would be shitting your pants scared. You would not risk making a movie out of it and having somebody make a fictionalized version of it. You wouldn't do that because you would piss off the demon. So there's just no way. Third, I have this theory about why this story is so great and believable, even if it is fiction. I would bet all the money in my bank account that the real Adam had this nightmare one night, that the dream about David was completely true. He actually has this dream about this creepy little ghost boy with a caved in head. Then he actually had the dream about the Dear David and the asking him questions part. When he woke up, he was so disturbed and so creeped out that it inspired this entire story. That way, he isn't really lying because at least that part did actually happen. And then some of this is rooted in truth, again, making it more believable. I'm guessing he really does suffer from sleep paralysis, which does totally suck. But he just used his photo editing, illustration, writing skills to make it into a substantial tale. Questions I still have though. There are some photos and videos that, clearly most of them were set up or edited. You know, obviously he edited in David, which is totally, as we know from paranormal footage, that's totally easy to do. I know how he did a lot of that stuff. The glass moving, the thing falling off the wall, the chair rocking, all of that could have been achieved by fishing line. What I don't know is how he got that shoe and that marble up in that crawl space. We know that that crawl space is actually that high, and we know that he would have needed a very, very large ladder in order to access it. However, I would venture to guess, if I were to speculate as to how he did that, he did actually have a ladder that he just never showed us on camera, and he used that to get up there. Or there is another entrance to that crawl space on another part of the house that he was able to access. He crawled over to the door above the stairs and placed the items nearby, the marble nearby and the shoe right on top sticking out so that it would fall when he poked the pole in there. Again, I can't prove it, but that is my guess. He never shows any proof that a landlord ever actually came out to help him check it out, which would make sense because, again, he would have been knowingly lying about some raccoon to his landlord to get him to come out to get the photo proof of his landlord coming to investigate. So he just, you know, of course, says that part. He wasn't about to waste his landlord's time for an ARG. And then people would also ask questions about the landlord and if he had ever heard anything. Yeah, just et cetera, et cetera. I bet that part was all made up. The last thing was the footprints in the snow in Montana was also pretty clever because all the snow around the footprints, you know, is undisturbed. So how did he get those footprints out there with little tiny kid-sized shoes and do that? I can only imagine that when he actually went home for the holidays to Montana, I would guess. And my guess, speculation would be that he had a nephew or some kid that was staying there and had him do this for him. And he quickly took pictures of it before he went out and, you know, they all played in the snow, I would guess. That's my best guess. I don't see how else he could have done that if he was doing it himself, because he would have left his own footprints. The warehouse thing was just lucky timing, or the warehouse was never open and it was just like this abandoned warehouse. So we made up the part about it being open and super jam-packed all the time. I mean, you get it. The story / lie is the most convincing when there's a lot of truth sprinkled in there. Final thoughts. I loved this story. Genuinely creeped me out. I was actually scared when I knew some of the pictures of David were coming. I legitimately didn't want to watch them, and I'm kind of mad that I have to edit this video and look at these photos so much more as I put in the videos, because real or not, they are very creepy. This is a very unique demon that he came up with. Love Adam. Like I said, I hope that he never admits that this was fiction. Like most ARG creators, I want him to stick to the story and insist that it's real because it's more fun and more immersive for us. Movie. Will I go see it? Of course I will. It sounds genuinely frightening. And if it's anything like this story, then I bet it would make a really, really good non-gory horror film. Whew, this is the longest video I have made in quite some time. Thank you guys so much for watching, especially if you made it to the end. Like, wow, you're the real MVP. I can't even describe how grateful I am. If you did make it this far, please don't forget to leave a like, leave me a comment if you want, all that stuff just to support the channel. Don't forget about our sponsor today, which is Ritual. I'll leave their info down below. And yeah, I will see you guys soon. Thank you to all our patrons. Special shout out to top tiers Colin Holmes, The Deck of Cards, Michelle Baldovinos, Tom L, JJ, Quasi Eli, Little Kittle Cat, Mitchell Schaefer-Meyer, Mike, Alice Paul, Dark-Sided Otter, Brittany Phillips, Willow Winchester, Bambi, Momo Nia, Philip J, Marita 144, Sage K, Literally Lacey, Elderly Hipster, Christina Amos, Veronica C, Reese Rolls, Leon James, The Puppy Hag, Rebecca Jackson, Headless Fancy, Toby, Carter, Kawakan Anime and Gaming Convention, and Sonder.